World Music Views is a media entity. It's a trade publication that documents what's happening in music, particularly reggae, dancehall music. How are you doing?
Doing good, How about yourself?
I am awesome, man. I'm awesome. Good morning. What's the name of your partner?
Joanne Sculaci.
Joanne Sculaci and Stephen Drummond. Welcome to World Music Views.
Okay.
So World Music Views is the only music business publication in Jamaica, and we deal specifically with niche music markets around the world. Reggae, dancehall, of course, K-pop, Afrobeat, hip-hop, music that resonate with people globally. And we chart it, we cover it, and we also cover the business. And this particular topic that we're about to talk about is music copyrights with Jamaica. But before we get into it, just individually tell me who you are and how you got your present job.
That's a loaded question. Well, I'm Stephen Drummond, originally born and raised in Hopewell, Hanover. Went to Herbert Morrison and migrated to the United States in 1984. Spent some time in the military and then went to law school, became a lawyer, became a prosecutor, and opened up a law firm with my law partner, Joanne Sculaci. And we've been at it for over 20 years now?
A long time. We're aging ourselves now.
Yeah. So that's it pretty much in a nutshell.
So Joanne, you and Stephen, you've been working on copyright cases primarily, or you do other law?
We do other law. Copyright is a big part of it, as well as trademark and patent infringement. We also do a lot of other federal civil litigation, such as employment discrimination, civil rights violations. We do medical malpractice. So we do a lot of civil litigation, a lot of federal work, and certainly the copyright world lands us into federal court quite often.
One of the big cases that you've worked on, Stephen, is the Miley Cyrus flower gun case, which that was a landmark case. I remember everybody talking about it. This was like 2020, 2019, right?
I know it was before the pandemic. I should say I had the privilege of working with a team of lawyers. Joanne was, along with Willie Gary, served as the lead attorneys in that case. So it's one that had a collective team. Gart Clark from Jamaica, Carol Green, also another Jamaican. So you had a number of lawyers that were had the privilege of representing Mr. May. I also happened to be one of them.
Why and how did you know you were going to win the case?
You take on cases with a view towards winning. You're not always going to win, but you take them on with a view towards winning. One of the commitment to winning is that we'll never lose a case for lack of preparation. You don't have to be the smartest person. You don't have to be the most brilliant person, but there's only 24 hours in a day, and all of us are given 24 hours within that day. Generally speaking, the lawyer that is most prepared with the best evidence generally wins. So, and you equal the playing field by being most prepared. So it doesn't change from when you're in school, you're getting the same little advice, then hard work hard, and it will work out in the end. That's the approach we take on cases. We're never going to lose a case for lack of preparation. We're going to work hard, commit ourselves to it. And if we have to go before a jury, we believe we can make a plausible case before any jury because of the level of preparation that went into it before we have to get to a jury.
In terms of the flower gun case, what was the pivotal moment that swayed the winnings? Because there are a lot of other cases like this that persons argued of just not litigating, just not going forward. But what was that ingredient that caused the shift to happen? And then you think well, it was a settlement, right? It didn't go to jury.
The case settled to the satisfaction of both sides. I have to make sure that we emphasize that point. And I'll let Ms. Sculaci address what she thought was the point in the case that led to an amicable resolution for both sides.
I think, first of all, in taking on the flower gun case, Mr. May, we decided that apart from the merits and where we saw an avenue to resolving the case to his satisfaction, we decided that if we don't help him, who is going to help him? And a lot of these artists don't have the resources to take on the fight. And so we wanted to help most importantly. And when you speak to Mr. May as an example or other Jamaican artists, they're so passionate about their work and they so enjoy and love creating their work, performing their work. And it's sad to see, as we've often seen, artists come in, want some recourse for their work because they're not getting paid for whatever reason, whether it's royalties or profits from another song that took part of their work. And when you see so often that they're so excited to make the music or sign a recording contract that they sign over their rights to their own music, it's very sad to see. And so I think it was touched upon in the interview last night. The younger artists, the more present day artists, are starting to learn more of the business end of it, but the older artists, unfortunately, some of them are still losing out. So we made a concerted effort that we are going to start with Mr. May's case to see in this atmosphere how we can help those that we can help. And Mr. Drummond often has a phrase, if there's wiggle room, we're going to wiggle right through it and find a way to get them some compensation. I think the lyrics spoke for itself in terms of the lyrics of Mr. May that Miss Cyrus used in the song. It spoke for itself. And I think what the pivotal point was is that both sides agreed that the case should resolve without having to go too much farther in litigation. And it was a business decision, of course, for these big companies. They take, and big artists take oftentimes from another artist all the time. And it's a business practice that unfortunately they use to the detriment of the original artist. And they factor in, if and when it gets discovered, we'll deal with it then. By the time it gets discovered, they may be out of damages or less damages. So it's often a business practice of these larger companies to do this. It's not unique to any one individual artist or reggae artist that their work is being taken. But when they come into our office, we have to see and we have to be realistic. Do they have a claim? Is there an avenue? Are there damages to actually get? And we take it very seriously because we know these artists have poured their whole soul into making their music. And so if we can help them, if we find a way, and we believe we have a way, as Mr. Drummond said, we are going to work day and night to make sure that we can get them some compensation.
You are going for 300 million in compensation. I know you might not want answers, but how much did you get?
As I said before, the case settled to the satisfaction of both sides.
All right, so you're satisfied.
Yes.
Yes.
So let's fast forward now to Steely and Cleavy versus Reggaeton.
Yes.
From where you sit, what you know about the case, could you bring this case home for Steely and Cleavy's estate?
Well, that's a good question, and it's often asked. I like to say when lawyers go to cocktail parties, it's never a good idea to try to answer a question regarding a case in such a setting, because what you don't have is the benefit of the full detail. So right now we might read some things, we might be able to even look at a complaint, which we did, but we haven't had the benefit of sitting down and talking with the clients. So from that spectrum, it will be ill-advised to say, well, I could take it and win, or I could take it and this is how it would turn out, when you don't have the full background and all the details of the case. So I would defer to the lawyers that they have to say that they put forward, from what I read in the complaint, they put forward a compelling complaint. And it seems to me that they're prepared and putting hard work into the case, and I wish them well.
Steely, Cleavy, I interviewed Cleavy a couple weeks ago, and he said that he placed a hidden note in the Fish Market rhythm, which is what morphed into Dembow and what Reggaeton became. Right. He didn't speak on the case, to be clear, because it's ongoing. But I quizzed him about making the rhythm itself. He said there's a hidden note in there. Will that be a factor in determining the originator of such a rhythm? Because the difference between Dembow and what Bad Bunny is making now, it's not sonically different, but so much music has been made from it. Are there differentiators, and will this secret note be like a thing if it's there for real?
It could be if it's there. So I would equate that to a unique fingerprint. Let's assume that's the analogy. Then he's trying to convey that there's something so unique that it's going to be identifiable in both songs or in both genre of music. Here's a challenge with not just this case, but these kind of cases in general. It's a long time. 1989 to now is quite a lot of years. And in the world of someone taken, if between 1989 and now, two or three other people took their work, and then later on, someone took that work that was taken, you might have a challenge demonstrating that the final person who took it some 20 years or 30 years later actually took it from your original work and not from someone else. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if in 1989 they created it and they had a unique identification, let's say in 1995 someone else took it, and in 1996 someone else took it, and in 2000 another party took it, you may have a challenge demonstrating that the person now who took it in 2010 or 2023 is actually taking it from your 1989 as opposed to the person who took it in 2010. And listening to reggae,
Let me get this right. I want to be clear on what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if I assign rights to you,
right,
and you assign rights to someone else, the someone else, I can't sue the someone else?
You might be able to sue to someone else if you restricted the rights that you assigned to him. If you say, I assigned it to you, but you're not allowed to give it to a third party. But let's say a third party took it from the person you assigned it to. Then even though you might have a unique note in your original work, you would have to establish that the final person who took it is in fact taking it from you, your original work, and not from the person that you assigned it to. So as I read the complaint in that case, that's where the real challenge lies. Because so reggaeton, as you listen to reggaeton, you hear it. I mean, they say it in the name, reggaeton. It's there. Well, where did it originate from, and who was the initial first person that started using, as it's alleged, reggae-based music to create reggaeton? And if you can identify that first person, then 3 or 4 other people doing it after that first person may present a challenge for you.
So the song Despacito is part owned now by a lady named Charisse Clark Suarez. She was just named one of Billboard's top women. She's a Jamaican. She's from Harborview, but she got $1 billion from Apollo, which is a major investment firm, to buy music and assets, because Wall Street is seeing the money play in music now, right? And Despacito, right, she bought Louis Fonzi's catalog for $100 million, right, which include several of the songs that are being litigated now, including Despacito. Is it that Steely and Cleavy's estate are now suing the wrong people, seeing that Fonzie doesn't even own his catalog anymore? He has no rights to the music. All of it is now owned by Harborview Equity Partners.
That's a very good question.
So it goes to, in terms of the alleged infringers. So if Mr. Fonzie was an alleged infringer before he sold the catalog, then to name him for whatever time frame, whatever songs came out that allegedly infringed upon the rhythm, then that would be a party that you would want to sue and include. To the extent if they did not include now who currently owns his catalog, that could be for whatever reason a strategic decision, because to the extent that if Mr. Fonzie sold his catalog, she now owns his catalog with really no wrongdoing on her end, because she bought a catalog from someone who was actually authorized to sell her his catalog. But going back to the reggaeton, and as Mr. Drummond said, it's so popular. Part of what we saw is a lot of the songs that are alleged to be infringing on the rhythm came out in 2002, 2004, 2011, and reggaeton made such a hit that everyone, I would argue, across the world has heard of reggaeton or has heard some song that falls under the category of reggaeton. So part of one of the challenges, because it's a plaintiff's burden to prove their case, and it's their burden to go forward and present evidence of the alleged infringement. Part of the challenge is if this song or songs came out in 2004, 2011, 2012, but you're not suing until 2021, then you may be out of luck on the damages for the profits earned by those songs that happened and came out so long ago. So there are definitely different nuances to these cases, so many elements to prove in a copyright infringement case. The other part, and you talked about the distinct hidden notes in the rhythm that Cleavy was telling you about. One of the things you must prove is that the alleged infringing work is substantially similar to your original work. So you mentioned Despacito. Now, if Despacito has the same rhythm, which they have to prove, we know Despacito, the melody and the rhythm is slowed down. So under the law, what's permitted, I can take your work if I transform it in some way. So the courts, I'm sure, when they analyze, in this case, the substantial similarity in that particular song, an argument can be made for Despacito, even assuming we took the rhythm without your permission. We have transformed it in such a way because we've slowed it down, we've slowed the tempo, that the average listener will not recognize the fish market rhythm. So there's so many different elements, and that's why it's a high burden. But as Mr. Drummond said, they have a team of lawyers working on their behalf. It's a very thorough, detailed complaint, and we wish them the best. It looks like they have lawyers that are ready to take on the fight, and that's what these artists need, people in their corner to take on the fight against the big guys or the big girls or the big companies.
I feel like I'm at law school right now. But I like it, right? Tony Rebel made a song called Ghetto People Song that was sampled last year by French Montana and Harry Fraud for song Higher with Everton Blender. Spoke with Rebel. Matter of fact, I told Rebel about it because Rebel don't listen to hip hop. I'm a hip hop guy. So I called him. Rebel is my brethren. We actually work out every day. So I called him. I was like, yo, did you clear this song? I sent it to him. Higher. He was like, nah, I didn't clear that song. So I said to him, like, you know, that's an issue. Like he knew that's an issue as well. Because he has also litigated other stuff with record labels. In the case of that, where Blender is saying he didn't clear the song, Rebel saying don't clear the song. It's obvious and blatant is Blender's voice they're using. Does he have a case there? And what kind of money based on your flower gun $300 million lawsuit? What kind of money Rebel looking at? And just tell me about that. If you've heard about it, and tell me what you think about it.
Did Mr. Rebel ask you to ask us that?
Yes, that's the question.
We have a question for your question.
Did Mr. Rebel ask you to ask us that?
Oh, you're Rebel's lawyer. You're Rebel's lawyer. No. Actually, I asked him this 2 days ago.
I would not put it past him. First of all, listen, you know, we laugh and we have a tremendous amount of respect for Tony Rebel.
Very much.
We have a tremendous amount of respect for his daughter, Jayuda. And Tony Rebel is the epitome of the example of what more artists needs to do in Jamaica, understanding the business component of what they're doing. Most artists across the board just want to perform. And they tend to, as long as they're entertaining people, everybody excited, they get a certain reward and joy, just as how we enjoy our work. You enjoy what you're doing. And you know, it's, the adage is, hey, if you find something that you love to do to make that your job, then you really never have to work a day in your life. So for me, the practice of law is that exciting that I would do it for free. So I understand someone getting up on stage and just want to get the crowd excited and entertaining people and bring joy to it. But the business component of being an entertainer is important, because that's how they support their families. That's how they survive and continue to make more music. So we had the privilege of speaking at Tony Rebel's, I think it's 2019, Rebel Salute launch. And there we introduced the concept of the 3Ps. And I say it often in this forum because I want this message to be conveyed to the Jamaican artists. The first thing you do after you decided that your song is so good that it's going to bring joy and value to the world and to the community, right after you finish your final cut, your next step is to go protect. So I said, protect, then perform in order to preserve. And Tony Rebel understands that concept very, very well. We have the privilege of being Mr. Rebel's attorney for a number of years now. And a lot of folks may not know that, but now, because of the question you asked. So I won't
Music Views exclusive.
I won't comment too much on that case regarding
you know, I think he told me this. I just never remembered your name. I think he told me, because he told me of a situation where he sued a record label and won. And he told me the lawyer, but I don't remember. Like, maybe he said the name, but I just didn't remember him saying it. But this is serendipity.
Yeah, we've been in the space for a while, and we had some of them that are quietly handled, and in fact, we prefer the ones that are quietly handled. And it's a good space to be in when the cases can be quietly handled. And our hope here with the one involved in French Montana on behalf of Mr. Rebel and the others is that we can reach a amicable resolution to the satisfaction of all parties, and that's what we're pursuing. But
so you're already on the case. You're already pursuing remedy.
Yes.
We're on the case.
World Music Views exclusive.
All right. We're gonna call him after. We still think.
Now my rebel is my brethren, like my brethren. Good youth. In terms of Jamaican music, right? These aren't unique cases. A whole lot of them happen right now. Etana with VP, another guy suing VP announced this week. Several persons in litigation with labels because they either reap little or reap none. The profit sharing in terms of artists and label. There's a city report actually that came out 2018 that showed that artists globally only made 12% of the 25 billion that the record label, that the music industry makes. So it's not even a unique situation to Jamaica, right? Do you advise artists to go it alone independently, or the label situation is still a good standard for where we can go?
The advice I would give, and it's not just the artists, just in people in life in general, you can't be the master of everything. So if you're a great entertainer, chances are you might not be at the same level of competence as a business person. It can happen, but if you are a standout performer, chances are you will not be on the same level. And it doesn't matter what sport it is. If you're a great football player, chances are you might not be a great accountant. That tends not to align itself in a one body. So find out your weaknesses and make sure you buttress the weaknesses with, if you're a great performer, find a great accountant. If you're a great performer, find a great PR person. If you can be as great a performer and be the same PR person, then you are struck upon probably a unique scenario. So the first thing I would say is not, you can't really go it alone if you recognize shortcomings in yourself. If you're a great performer, find a great PR person, find a great lawyer. And not just us. I'm not saying get Drummond and Scolaci. I'm saying when you're going to draft a contract and sign a contract for the work that you put in hours and hours and hours into, find someone who's going to give you a contract to protect the fact that you put so many hours into it. And what artists should know is this copyright thing lasts 75 years after your death. So you're taking care of children and grandchildren. You as a performer, the average performer wouldn't know that. But you want to find people who know that when you create a song, you create a work, if you copyright it, it lasts 75 years after you're gone. And it protects your children, it protects your grandchildren. It's part of your legacy. So the advice wouldn't be necessarily don't go it alone. You can go it alone, but have a good sit down conversation with yourself to evaluate whether you provide all the skill set, all the wheel wells that's necessary to get you to that level that you're trying to get to. Some of the artists that I don't know per se, but I watch them. I think if I was a Jamaican artist, I would take a good look at how Shaggy's running his affairs. I would take a good look at how Tony Rebel is running his affairs. Right. And I would bother them, not necessarily so much for how to sing or how to perform, but I'd bother them to find out how did you last so long and how did you make a living and support your family for such a long period of time. And I mean, not to be too winded, but if you remember,
that's what I asked them, by the way. When I interview them, that's what I asked them. Like, it's like I'm talking to you now.
Right. Just, do you want to know? It's one of Michael Jordan, when he gave a speech about Kobe Bryant, he said Kobe Bryant just kept bothering him, asking him questions about how did you get better? How did you become so good? And to the point where if you listen to the Michael Jordan tribute, it almost suggested that there are times when he's like, this young man won't leave me alone. But if you develop a love and affection in that space for him, I'd recommend that to them. Bother the people who, because you could tell they're willing to help and they're willing to share their wisdom and their knowledge and their experience at it. Sit at their footstool, so to speak, and bug them till you get a sense of what is it, the business aspect of it. What have you done and what advice would you give? And keep bothering them to make sure that you can have your work last as long as you have. There's not a single artist who's performing who doesn't believe that your work is a hit and the next big song. And if you're convinced and persuaded that it is, then do what you need to do to protect it so it lasts for generations to come.
There's a thing in law where your rights is reverted back to you after 35 years in the US, right? And there's also another thing where after like 7 years, you could re-record your masters. I spoke with Sean Paul about that because he said VP owns all his hits in Atlantic, and he's now in a position where he could re-record, which he hasn't. Shaggy did it for It Wasn't Me, I believe. Talk to me about that law, the 35-year law, one, because a lot of early recording artists in Jamaica, because Jamaica music industry started in the 60s.
Right.
A lot of them didn't own their music. A lot of music is owned by BMI, Trojan Records. Talk to me directly to them, really, about how they can reclaim that original recording that they did in the 70s and 60s.
I'm not aware of a law that automatically reverts anything that you've given away or signed away to yourself. A lot of that space is governed by contracts. So that's why I would more say, if you sign a contract giving away your music indefinitely, then I'm not aware of a situation where you'll get it back somehow down the road, because what will be the point of the person who's buying it? They pay what the law is. It's now you're not even in copyright world, you're in contract world. And contracts comprise of offer, acceptance, and consideration. An offer, I offer you $10 to buy your pencil. The $10 is a consideration. You accept it. Once I give you the $10, it's my pencil. So I'm not aware. So you're not in copyright world, from my understanding. You're now in contract world. Once you sign a contract, the terms and conditions of the contract in the four corners of the contract tend to govern. And I don't think.
But most of those acts never signed a contract. They just recorded. They just recorded and that was it.
If you record it, you're one of the space where artists we see repeatedly, and sadly so, is in what's called work for hire. That is it's sad when you get a call from an artist and they say, well, I did this work, I did that work, and I did it with this company. And I said, okay, send us the agreement. And you see in the agreement the phrase, your work for hire. If your work for hire, it's not yours. It belongs to the company that you hired you to do the work. So it's a sad thing, but that's very, very prevalent, where once you work for hire, it's not your property, it's theirs. And if you equate it to people who work for big company, IBM, making computers, if you go to IBM and you come up with this great chip while you're working for them, then it's not your work, it's their work because you're work for hire. The same thing, you might be your own boss, or I might have folks working here for me. They are work for hire. They're working within the law firm to support the agenda of the law firm. If they came up with this brilliant theory or brilliant concept, it would belong to the law firm. So they must, that's why I go back to get the business component of it. I didn't know that part about Sean Paul, because he's an example of a great talent that's out of Jamaica, and just everywhere you go, you hear him doing a hook here and there. A perfect example of a great talent, and I hope he has great management behind him to make sure that his work is protected.
And that's what I was alluding to before, when we've had artists come in, and in order to get the recording contract, they were deemed a work for hire, and their work, their masters, belonged to the record label. And over time, that gets assigned to other entities, other labels, other companies. And the other part too is what probably will also be an issue in the Steely and Cleavy case is there's no copyright of Fish Market in the United States. And in order to sue, you need a United States copyright of the song that you are claiming has been infringed upon until 2021. By law, that's going to limit their damages because the copyright came after the alleged infringements. So that's one challenge to them. The other part is if the alleged infringing work has been copyrighted and that copyright predates your copyright, that's also another challenge. So a lot of these times, because the companies own the master, so for example, VP with Sean Paul, they've copyrighted it. And in fact, in researching for the case, there's a copyright for Dembow, for Shabba Ranks. Dembow is owned by a record label. It's not owned by Shabba Ranks. It's not owned by Steely and Cleavy. It's owned by a record label. And they are quick to protect because they know this is part of the business. And so that's why, as Mr. Drummond said, Mr. Drummond's 3 Ps. You protect your work, then go perform it, and that way you preserve your legacy. It's very important.
So don't perform it before you protect it.
I wouldn't even send it via email.
No.
This is another thing that because I listen to the radio program, the Jamaican radio program here. So, and I'm glad we're having this talk. And I hope.
Make sure you listen to World Music Views after today, all right?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
I certainly will.
For sure.
So, a lot of you're familiar with the term dub plate.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So, someone goes out now and they make their song and they finally, this is it. This is final cut. In order to get it to be played, they say, okay, in addition to the final cut, I'm going to go make a dub plate because I'm going to send it to all these DJs around the world because I'm trying to get earplay. So now, in essence, they have created first the original song or the regular final product. And depending on how many DJs they're sending to, they might do 3 or 4 dub plates. So literally now you have 5 different song version of the final product out there, none of which is copyrighted. And they send it by email because now we have the technology. Hey, look in your Dropbox. I have an email there, my song, put it out there. So the song starts playing right away. The original is not necessarily getting all the play. The dub plate's getting a lot of play, and that work has not been protected. So they start performing right away and doing everything they can because they're doing a marketing blitz, everything they can without the copyright work is a small amount of money. And I'm not here saying come to us. But there are people that we know in this space that will get your work copyrighted within 24 hours. It's done. 24 hours, you're protected. Now you can go perform anywhere you want. And anybody who takes your stuff after that, you have money coming into you because you've worked hard. Some of these folks stay up in the studio all night putting a final product together. And it's sad to see that their work is then taken and they don't get full compensation for it.
So my latest book is called Cultural Capital to Financial Capital, where I really interviewed like 35 people, Alba, Rosie, Shaggy, Sean Paul, a bunch of people who made it in the business, producers. Right. It's written like the Bible, but there's also verses according to me, which is like Jesus talking. So what it is, though, is getting the stories from the people who did it and how they did it. And one of the common things was that they got it from the people, from the culture.
Yeah.
Everybody, dancehall, reggae is people suffering and they're on the backs. Morally, do you think reggaeton should just give props to where it's due. Like, just realize that, yo, this music was made on the backs of suffering Jamaican people that went through historical atrocities, both political, pre-colonial and after colonialism, and they made this music. Do you think morally, no law, just morally, they should be like, yo, big up to Jamaica, yeah, man?
I don't think they have a problem doing that. I really don't. Given the props, it's already in the name, if you consider it. The idea that they didn't call it something else, they call it Reggaeton, which is a tribute to reggae, and we know where reggae originated. So while I appreciate a thank you and I appreciate a big up, I like food on the table more than anything else, you know. So
I'm with you.
Yeah, so I'm more in the business of, you know, someone can tell you thank you. Someone who owe you money can say thank you and say, boy, tomorrow I'll, you know, everything. You want the money that you owe, because that's how you enjoy your life. That's how you take care of your family. And the real aspect of it is this. I know suffering exists in Jamaica. I know we have a high crime problem in Jamaica. I fundamentally believe 99% of the world's problems can be solved through the proper allocation of resources. I fundamentally believe that. I believe 1% of love and affection, no matter how rich you are, I don't think you could buy it. But fundamentally, I'm persuaded that 99% of the world's problem can be solved through the proper allocation of goods and resources. So this industry of reggaeton making so much money, Jamaica, just give to Jamaica that percentage of what it's lawfully entitled to. And you don't even have to send a thank you card with that. Just send that. And that would be, we will infer the thank you from that gesture. Yeah. All right. That's how I see it.
The check is the thank you.
Yeah.
That's the thank you.
Yeah.
I never see a statement that I agree with so much in my life. Pay me. So my last question is a fun question.
You're right for this space, by the way, you know.
Yeah.
We're just meeting you. I don't just throw compliment to throw compliment. I'm glad you're in this space.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You really are. You know?
Thank you. My last question, and we have 2 minutes individually. Tell me your top 5 artists of all time.
Oh my gosh.
Yes?
No.
5. Only 5. Only 5. Quickly, we got 2 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna give you well, Bob Marley. There's a Pino Dinelli. He's a folk singer out of Naples, Italy. Definitely no Pinchers. Oh, it can't be top 5, man. You gotta
5 is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
2 more.
And in the world of, I think Michael Jackson is remarkably talented, incredibly talented guy.
1 more.
And Anita Baker.
You look like Pinchers, by the way.
Oh, don't insult the guy. Come on, he's so much better looking.
Your turn.
Okay, so there's some Italian and Jamaican combination going on here today. So we have Andrea Bocelli, who is a tenor, as everybody knows, crossed over. Luciano Pavarotti, who gave Andrea Bocelli his chance and is a legend. Also Bob Marley. Big, huge fan of Sean Paul. And I'm actually I am a fan of Anita Baker, but Sade.
Woo! That's a nice list, though. Those are nice. Like, you're in your groove right there.
And I have to put in that Tony Rebel song, If Jah is Standing by My Side. That's a very inspirational song when time gets tough.
That's my tune, too. My favorite Tony Rebel is If Me Not Bow, Me Not Gow, Ras Then and Ras Now. Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate you. And I'm going to keep in touch and send you questions whenever I have it. All right.
Okay. Send me the link to your program, please.
I will. WorldMusicViews.com.
Okay. I will. All right. All the best. Take care.
For more music news, log on to worldmusicviews.com and follow me at JR Watkis on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm JR. Pleasant viewing.